Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of the research vessel Horizon and stared at the screen. Something was wrong. The signal they had detected near Europa was unlike anything in their database. It was not human. It was not from any probe they knew about. "Lieutenant Tejo," she said without turning around. Tejo walked to her side and studied the data. He was a tall man with sharp eyes and a calm voice. He had served under Yuna for 5 years, and she trusted him more than anyone else on the ship. "It's not natural," he said. "Someone put it there. Someone who is not us." Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. She opened a channel to Earth and sent everything they had recorded. The response came within an hour. But it did not come from Earth. A massive ship appeared out of nowhere. Then another. Then 100 more. They were enormous, each one the size of a small moon. They blocked out the stars like a curtain of metal and fire. Yuna's crew stood frozen. No one spoke. No one breathed. Then, a voice filled the bridge. It was cold and mechanical, translated into perfect English by some unknown technology. "This is Overlord Keth of the Varath Dominion. We have watched your species for some time. You have spread beyond your world, which shows promise. But your technology is primitive. Your military is weak. You have nothing to offer us except your labor." Yuna gripped the edge of her console. Her knuckles turned white. "You have 1 solar cycle to surrender," Keth continued. "All humans will submit to enslavement under the Dominion. Your governments will dissolve. Your armies will disband. Your people will serve us for the rest of their short lives. If you refuse, we will destroy you. Every city, every colony, every last human being. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The bridge remained silent. Tejo was the first to speak. "Captain, what do we do?" Yuna looked at the alien fleet on her screen. 1,000 ships. Maybe more. Earth's entire defense force would not last an hour against them. "We go home," she said, "and we tell them what's coming." Back on Earth, the United Defense Council met in emergency session. The room was full of generals, admirals, and politicians. They all looked afraid. Admiral Dowan stood at the head of the table. He was an old man who had spent his life preparing for threats that never came. Now the biggest threat in human history had arrived, and he did not know what to do. "We cannot win this fight," he said. "Their ships are beyond anything we have ever seen. Their weapons could destroy our planet in minutes. Our only option is to negotiate. Perhaps we can offer them something. Technology. Resources. Anything to buy time." Director Suman listened from her seat at the far end of the table. She was young for her position, only 42, but she had risen through the ranks faster than anyone in history. They said she made decisions without emotion. They were right. "Negotiate for what?" she asked. "They do not want our technology. They do not need our resources. They want slaves. That is all we are to them." "Then what do you suggest?" Dowan demanded. "We cannot fight them." Suman stood up. Every eye in the room turned to her. "You are wrong," she said. "Fighting them is exactly what we should do." The room erupted in angry voices. Generals shouted that she was insane. Politicians demanded she be removed from her position. But Suman waited until they were quiet, then continued. "Number, the Varath have conquered 1,000 species. They have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. In all that time, no one has ever resisted them. No one has ever fought back. Do you know why?" No one answered. "Because those species were not human," Suman said. "They did not have our history. They did not spend thousands of years killing each other over land and ideas and pride. They did not build weapons that could destroy their own world 100 times over. They did not evolve on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. End quote. She walked to the center of the room. The Varath think we are weak because our technology is primitive. They think we will surrender because every other species did. But they do not know what humans are capable of. They do not know that we would rather die than kneel. Do-Wan shook his head. Pretty words, Director. But words will not stop their ships. No, Suman agreed. But our answer will tell them what kind of enemy they have made. She turned to the communications officer. Open a channel to the Varath fleet. Broadcast on all frequencies. I want every human being to hear this. The officer looked at Do-Wan. The admiral hesitated, then nodded. Channel open, the officer said. Suman faced the screen. She knew that billions of people were watching. She knew that the Varath were listening. She spoke clearly and slowly. This is Director Suman of Earth's United Defense Council. We have received your demand. We have discussed it. And we have decided. She paused. We are sending you our complete history. Every war we have fought. Every revolution we have started. Every time we have chosen death over surrender. Watch it carefully. Learn what kind of species you are threatening. She took a breath. Then come and take us. If you can. The transmission included everything. The ancient wars of Egypt and Rome. The world wars that killed hundreds of millions. The nuclear weapons that could have ended all life on Earth. The revolutions where common people overthrew kings and emperors. Every act of defiance. Every moment of spite. And at the very end, 3 words appeared on screen. Come and take. On the Varath command ship, Overlord Keth watched the transmission with growing confusion. He had conquered species that spanned entire star systems. He had broken civilizations that had existed for millions of years, but he had never seen anything like this. These humans had spent their entire existence fighting each other. They had weapons designed to destroy their own world. They had killed billions of their own kind over things as small as words and ideas, and they were refusing to surrender. One of his officers approached. Overlord, this is unexpected. Perhaps we should reconsider. No, Keth said. They are bluffing. They are a primitive species trying to frighten us with their barbaric history. It will not work. And well, they're a bluffing, he gave the order. Begin the attack. Show them what happens to species that defy the Dominion. The Varath fleet moved toward Earth. 1,000 ships carrying millions of soldiers. The largest invasion force in galactic history. They thought it would be easy. They were wrong. On the horizon, Captain Yuna watched the fleet begin its approach. Teho stood beside her. Do you think we can win? He asked quietly. Yuna thought about it for a long moment. I think we can make them pay for every inch, she said. And sometimes that's enough. She turned to her crew. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. We have a war to fight. The horizon shot forward into the darkness. Behind them, the Varath fleet followed like a wave of death. The first war between Earth and the galaxy had begun, and humanity was ready to show the universe what they were made of. The sky burned. Varath ships filled the air above Earth's greatest cities. Their weapons fired in bright beams of purple light that cut through buildings like they were made of paper. Seoul disappeared under a cloud of fire and dust. New York crumbled. Lagos fell. São Paulo became a grave. In the first hour, 50 million people died. The Varath expected the survivors to surrender. They expected crying and begging and white flags. That was what every other species had done. That was how conquest worked. But when the dust settled, the humans were still fighting. General Unji stood in an underground bunker beneath what used to be Seoul. Screens surrounded her, showing battles across the entire planet. She was a small woman with gray hair and hard eyes. She had fought in 3 wars before this one. She had lost friends and family to violence. She had thought she knew what war looked like. She was wrong. Report, she said to her officers. Surface forces are destroyed, one of them answered. Air Force is gone. Navy is gone. Estimated military casualties are 90% in the first wave. Yunji nodded. She had expected this. No human weapon could match Varath technology. Their ships had shields that stopped missiles. Their armor laughed at bullets. Their soldiers were 8 feet tall and stronger than 10 men. And civilian casualties? She asked. The officer hesitated. Unknown. High. Very high. Unji closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were cold. Begin Phase 2, she said. Phase 2 was something no other species had ever tried. It was something the Verath had never imagined. Across the planet, billions of humans emerged from underground shelters. But they were not surrendering. They were armed. Kitchen knives, hunting rifles, homemade explosives, anything that could kill. The Verath ground troops landed, expecting to round up slaves. Instead, they found themselves in a nightmare. Humans attacked from everywhere. They hid in ruins and shot from shadows. They set traps in streets and tunnels. They blew themselves up just to take a few enemies with them. Children threw rocks at soldiers in armor. Old women stabbed officers in the back. The Verath had never seen anything like it. Their other conquests had been clean, orderly. The population would surrender, and the soldiers would simply collect them. But these humans refused to stop fighting even when they had no chance of winning. Within a week, Verath ground forces had suffered more casualties than in their last 100 conquests combined. Overlord Keth received the reports with growing anger. He sat in his command ship above Earth and read the numbers again and again. It was impossible. His soldiers were the finest in the galaxy. Their equipment was perfect. Their training was unmatched. And they were being killed by primitives with knives. Send more troops, he ordered. Double the ground forces. Triple them. I do not care how many it takes. Crush them. More soldiers landed. More soldiers died. The humans learned and adapted. They studied Verath weapons and armor. They found weak points. They shared information across their networks faster than the Verath could track. Every time the Verath developed a new tactic, the humans had a counter within days. General Yunji coordinated everything from her bunker. She slept 2 hours a night. She ate only when her officers forced her to. She sent thousands of people to their deaths every day and never let herself cry. They are not used to this, she told her staff during one briefing. They conquer species that give up. They have no experience with enemies who would rather die than submit. That is our advantage. We have to make this war so painful for them that they decide we are not worth it. One of her young officers spoke up. General, what if they never decide that? What if they just keep coming until we are all dead? Unji looked at him. Then we make sure we are the most expensive conquest in their history. We make sure they remember us forever. While the ground war raged, something else was happening in space. Captain Yuna had gathered the survivors of Earth's fleet. There were not many. 30 ships against 1,000. It should have been a joke, but Yuna was not laughing. She led her small fleet into the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The rocks provided cover. The Verath ships were too big to follow easily. And Yuna knew these asteroids. She had mapped them herself during her years of research. We cannot beat them in a straight fight, she told her captains over a secure channel. So we will not fight straight. We will hit them and run. We will attack their supply ships. We will destroy their fuel depots. We will make them chase us until they are exhausted and angry and making mistakes. Lieutenant Teho commanded one of the other ships now. He had earned his own vessel through bravery and skill, but he was still Yuna's most trusted friend. They will catch us eventually, he said privately after the briefing. You know that. And, yes, Yuna admitted, but not today. And every day we survive, we give Earth more time. The hit-and-run campaign worked better than anyone expected. Verath supply ships exploded. Fuel depots burned. Scout vessels disappeared without trace. The Great Fleet found itself constantly looking over its shoulder, wasting resources chasing shadows. But the Verath were not stupid. They learned too. One day, they set a trap. A supply convoy that was actually a battle group in disguise. Yuna spotted it too late. Her fleet was surrounded. All ships, scatter, she ordered. Get back to the belt. Most of them made it. But Teho's ship was cut off. 3 Verath carriers closed in on him from different directions. There was no escape. "Yuna," he said over the comm. His voice was calm. "Get the others out. I will buy you time." Teho. "No. We can. There is nothing you can do. You know it. I know it." He paused. "It has been an honor serving with you, Captain." His ship turned toward the largest carrier. His engines burned at full power. He accelerated straight at the enemy. "Taiho!" Yuna screamed. His ship hit the carrier's engine core at maximum speed. The explosion was blinding. When it faded, 3 Verath carriers were gone, destroyed by one small, human ship. Teho's last transmission reached every human in the solar system. His words were simple. They wanted slaves. They made soldiers. The effect was immediate. Humans who had been hiding came out to fight. Soldiers who had been ready to give up found new strength. Factories that had been destroyed started rebuilding in secret. Teho's sacrifice became a symbol. His words became a battle cry. In her bunker, General Yunji heard the news. She stood alone for a moment and allowed herself to feel the loss. Then she straightened her back and returned to work. In her ship, Captain Yuna wiped her tears and plotted her next attack. In his command ship, Overlord Keth received reports of rising human resistance and wondered, for the first time, if he had made a mistake. But it was too late to go back. The war continued, and somewhere beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Jihoon worked on something that would change everything. His project was called Prometheus. It was humanity's secret weapon. The Verath had better technology. They had more ships. They had more soldiers, but they did not have human creativity. They did not have human desperation. They did not have the imagination of a species that had spent its entire existence inventing new ways to kill. Jihoon looked at his work and smiled. The Verath were about to learn what humans could really do. 3 months had passed since the invasion began. The Verath controlled Earth's orbit completely. Their ships blocked out the sun over every major continent. Their soldiers walked through the ruins of human cities. But they did not control the ground. For the first time in 10,000 years of conquest, the Verath Dominion was stuck. They could not leave, because that would mean admitting defeat. They could not advance because the humans would not stop fighting. Every building was a trap. Every street was a battlefield. Every survivor was a soldier. Overlord Keth paced his command chamber like a caged animal. His officers stood along the walls, afraid to speak. They had never seen him like this. "Explain to me," he said slowly, "how we have more soldiers on that planet than in any campaign in our history, and we are still losing ground." No one answered. "Explain to me how a species with primitive weapons and no fleet is killing my troops faster than I can replace them." Silence. Keth slammed his fist against the wall. The metal dented. These creatures should have surrendered in the first day. That is what every species does. That is what they are supposed to do. He turned to face his officers. "What is wrong with them? What is wrong with them?" One brave officer spoke up. "Overlord, perhaps we should consider..." "Consider what? Retreat?" Keth laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The Dominion does not retreat. The Dominion does not lose. We have ruled this galaxy for longer than these humans have existed as a species. I will not let them be the first to defy us." He made a decision. "Activate the Extinction Protocol." His officers froze. The Extinction Protocol was the ultimate weapon. It had only been used twice in Dominion history. It did not just kill the enemy. It destroyed their entire world. "Overlord," the brave officer said carefully. "I know," Keith said. "But the galaxy will know what happens to species that resist us. This will be a lesson, a warning." He looked at the image of Earth on his screen. "These humans have cost me more than they are worth. If I cannot have them, no one will." The order went out. The extinction protocol would fire in 10 hours. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Ji-hoon received the news. One of his people had intercepted the transmission. They had 10 hours to live. Ji-hoon was a thin man with tired eyes and steady hands. He had not slept more than 3 hours a night since the invasion. His hair had turned gray. His skin was pale from months underground. But he was smiling. "Is it ready?" he asked his team. His lead engineer, a young woman named Hana, nodded. "Project Prometheus is complete. All weapons are functional." Ji-hoon looked at what they had built. Rows and rows of devices that glowed with strange light. Weapons that used principles the Vareth had never imagined. Things that humans had dreamed of, but never had reason to create. Until now. "Contact Director Suman," Ji-hoon said. "Tell her it is time." Across the planet and beyond, humanity prepared for its counterattack. Director Suman stood in her command center and watched the screens. Reports came in from everywhere. Hidden factories. Secret bases. Resistance cells that had been waiting for this moment. "How many ships do we have?" she asked. Her aide checked the numbers. 217. Hidden in hollowed asteroids throughout the belt. Suman allowed herself a small smile. The Varath had never found them. They had been too busy chasing Captain Yuna's decoy fleet to look for ships that were not moving. And the weapons? Dr. Ji-hoon's team has produced enough for every ship, plus ground-based systems for General Unji's forces. Good. Suman opened a channel to all human forces. "This is Director Suman. The enemy plans to destroy our world in 10 hours. We will not let them." "Right." She took a breath. "For 3 months, we have been surviving. Now, we will fight back. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon, we have been saving. It all happens now. Today we show the Varath what humanity is capable of." She paused. "Today, we turn the tide." Captain Yuna led the attack. Her small fleet had been joined by 200 fresh ships. Behind her flew the largest human force ever assembled in space. They burst out of the asteroid belt like a wave. The Varath were caught completely off guard. They had thought Earth's fleet was destroyed. They had thought the war in space was over. They were wrong. The Battle of Europa became the largest naval engagement in galactic history. Human ships swarmed the Varath like angry insects. They were smaller and faster, and willing to take risks that the Varath considered insane. And they had new weapons. Dr. Ji-hoon's gravity bombs crushed Varath ships like tin cans. His quantum disruptors passed through shields as if they were not there. His viral code turned the enemy's own computers against them, causing ships to fire on each other. The Varath fought back with everything they had. Their weapons were still powerful. Their ships were still enormous. They killed human vessels by the dozen. But the humans did not stop coming. On the ground, General Unji launched her own offensive. Human soldiers emerged from their hiding places with weapons that finally matched the enemy. The Varath found themselves being pushed back for the first time since they landed. The fight was brutal. Entire cities became battlegrounds. The ground was soaked with blood from both sides. Humans died by the thousands. But they kept advancing. One moment changed everything. The extinction protocol weapon was housed in the largest Varath ship, a vessel called the Divine Judgment. Captain Yuna led a strike force directly at it. 50 ships against one massive fortress. The losses were terrible. Human ships exploded one after another. But they got closer and closer. Yuna's ship was hit. Alarms screamed. Fires burned across multiple decks. "Status!" she shouted. Engines at 30%. Weapons at half power. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Yuna gripped her controls. The Divine Judgment was right in front of her. She could see the extinction protocol. Weapon, powering up. All ships, focus fire on the weapon port. Everything you have. The human ships fired together. Missiles and energy beams and Ji-hoon's special weapons all hit the same spot at the same moment. The weapon exploded. The blast destroyed the Divine Judgment and everything around it. including most of Yuna's strike force. Including, almost, Yuna herself. When she woke up, she was floating in a damaged ship with half her crew dead. But she was alive, and the extinction protocol was gone. The rest of the battle lasted 6 more hours. When it was over, the Varath fleet was broken. Not destroyed completely, but shattered, wounded, unable to continue. For the first time in their history, the Varath retreated. On the ground, General Unji captured a Varath officer during the final push. She interrogated him personally. "Why?" the alien demanded. "Why do you keep fighting? You cannot win. Even if you beat us here, more will come. The Dominion is endless." Unji looked at him with cold eyes. "You tried to take our freedom," she said. "You should have killed us instead." The officer did not understand. He never would. That night, humanity celebrated. Not because the war was over. They knew it was not. The Varath would be back. They would want revenge. But for the first time, humans had proven they could win. Director Suman addressed the planet. "Today we showed the galaxy that humanity will not be enslaved. We will not surrender. We will not go quietly." She paused. "But our work is not finished. The Varath will return. And next time, we need to be ready." She looked at the stars. "Next time, we will take the war to them." Captain Yuna listened to the speech from her hospital bed. Her wounds would heal. Her ship could be repaired. Her fleet could be rebuilt. And when it was, she would lead them straight to the heart of the Dominion. The Varath had started this war. Humanity was going to finish it. The Varath thought they were safe. Their home space was 1,000 light-years from Earth. No species had ever reached it uninvited. No enemy had ever threatened their colonies. For 10,000 years, they had attacked others. They had never been attacked themselves. That changed on a quiet morning when the human fleet appeared out of nowhere. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Retribution. Around her, 300 human ships emerged from the Varath's own warp gates. They had captured the gate technology during the Battle of Europa. Now they were using it to strike at the heart of the Dominion. "All ships, begin attack pattern," Yuna commanded. "Primary targets are military installations. Avoid civilian populations where possible." Where possible. That was the key phrase. Yuna knew this war would not be clean. She knew they would have to do terrible things. But she also knew they had no choice. The first target was a Varath military base on a moon called Theron. It held 50,000 soldiers and enough weapons to supply an entire fleet. Yuna's ships surrounded it and demanded surrender. The Varath commander laughed at them. He called them insects. He said reinforcements were coming, and they would all die. Yuna gave him one more chance. He refused. She gave the order. Her ships fired everything they had. Dr. Jahun's weapons tore through the base's shields. Human missiles destroyed its defenses. Within an hour, the base was gone. 50,000 Varath soldiers dead. It was the first time in history that Varath had died on their own territory from enemy action. It would not be the last. The campaign moved fast. Yuna hit target after target. Military bases, shipyards, weapons factories. Anything that could be used to hurt Earth was destroyed. And everywhere they went, they found slaves. The Dominion had conquered 1,000 species. Those species were not dead. They were working. Building ships. Mining resources. Growing food. All for masters who saw them as property. General Yunji led the ground forces. She was not a young woman, but she insisted on being at the front. Her soldiers followed her, because she never asked them to do anything she would not do herself. On a planet called Ren, they found their first slave population, millions of beings who had never known freedom. They looked at the human soldiers with confusion and fear. "Who are you?" one of them asked. "Which empire do you serve?" Unji looked at the alien. It was thin and weak from years of hard labor. Its eyes were dull. It had given up hope long ago. "We serve no one," she said. We are humans. We came to set you free. The alien did not understand. Free? But we are slaves. We have always been slaves. Yunji felt something twist in her chest. Not anymore, she said. Word spread through the slave populations faster than the Verath could stop it. A new species had appeared. They were fighting the Dominion. They were winning. And they were freeing everyone they found. For the first time in thousands of years, the slaves began to hope. Some of them did more than hope. They started to fight. On Verath factory worlds, slaves sabotaged equipment. On mining colonies, they refused to work. On military bases, they gave information to the humans. Small rebellions broke out everywhere. The Dominion was starting to crack. Overlord Keth watched his empire begin to crumble and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. He had lost the battle for Earth. He had lost control of his borders. He was losing his slave populations. And the humans kept coming, kept pushing deeper into Dominion space. He needed to stop them. He needed to show the galaxy that the Dominion was still strong. He made a decision that would destroy everything. Keth addressed the entire empire through every communication channel. His face appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds. Citizens of the Dominion, he said. A new threat has emerged. A species called humans has attacked our territory. They are small and weak and insignificant, but they have caused damage through cowardly tricks and dishonorable tactics. He paused. I am ordering the complete extermination of humanity. Not enslavement, extermination. Every man, woman, and child will be hunted down and killed. Their worlds will be burned. Their colonies will be destroyed. Their species will be erased from the universe. He leaned forward. Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge us. The Dominion does not forgive. The Dominion does not forget. We will have our revenge. I would be for. On likes. The transmission ended. Keth thought this would frighten the slaves back into obedience. He thought it would show the galaxy his strength. He was wrong. The slaves saw something different in his speech. They saw desperation. They saw fear. They saw a master who was no longer in control. And they decided they did not want to be slaves anymore. Rebellions exploded across the Dominion. Dozens of species rose up at the same time. Mining colonies seized control of their facilities. Factory worlds turned their products into weapons. Slave soldiers turned on their officers. The Dominion could not fight the humans and control 1,000 rebellions at the same time. Their forces were stretched thin. Their supply lines were cut. Their empire was falling apart. Yuna received reports of the uprisings and felt hope for the first time since the war began. Maybe they could win this. Maybe they could actually defeat the Dominion. But she knew the final battle was still coming. Set course for Verath Prime, she told her fleet. We're going to end this. Verath Prime was the capital of the Dominion, the oldest and most powerful Verath world. It was defended by the largest fleet in the galaxy and weapons that could destroy stars. The human fleet arrived to find 10,000 Verath ships waiting for them. Yuna looked at the enemy force and felt the weight of the moment. Everything had led to this. Every death, every sacrifice. All ships, she said. This is it. Whatever happens, remember what we're fighting for. Remember Earth. Remember everyone we've lost. She took a breath. Attack. The Battle of Verath Prime lasted 3 days. It was the most violent conflict in the history of the galaxy. Ships died by the hundreds, on both sides. Wreckage filled space, like a metal graveyard. But the humans would not stop. They could not stop. Dr. Jihoon had given them one final weapon. Something so powerful that even he was afraid of it. A device that could destroy an entire fleet in a single blast. Yuna used it. The explosion erased 5,000 Verath ships from existence. The rest broke and ran. The way to the capital was open. Yuna led the assault on Overlord Keth's palace personally. Her soldiers fought through the halls, room by room, until they reached the throne chamber. Keth was waiting for them. He was not what Yuna expected. He was old, tired. He looked like someone who had already lost, and knew it. "You should surrender," Yuna told him. "The war is over. Your fleet is destroyed. Your empire is rebelling. You have nothing left." Keth laughed. It was a bitter, empty sound. "Surrender? To you? To insects who should have been our slaves?" He shook his head. "I offered you a chance to serve the Dominion. You refused. Now you have destroyed everything I built. You destroyed it yourself," Yuna said. "You came to our home. You killed our people. You tried to take our freedom. What did you think would happen?" Keth stared at her for a long moment. "I thought you would kneel," he said. "Then you do not understand humans." Yuna gave him the same choice he had given Earth. Surrender or die. He chose death. Yuna did not hesitate. The war was over. The Dominion had fallen. Humanity had won. But as Yuna stood in the throne room of her defeated enemy, she did not feel victorious. She felt tired, sad, empty. She thought about Tejo, about all the people who had died to get here. She thought about what would come next. The Dominion was broken, but it was not destroyed. Millions of Verath were still alive. They would want revenge. They would rebuild, unless humanity stopped them. The question was, how far were they willing to go? Yuna looked at Keth's body and knew the answer. As far as they had to. The Dominion refused to die. Keth was dead. Verath Prime had fallen. But the war continued. Verath generals scattered across their territory and kept fighting. They attacked human supply lines. They bombed planets that had joined the rebellion. They executed slaves by the millions as punishment for disloyalty. And they targeted human civilians. Verath strike forces hit Earth's colonies on Mars and Europa. They destroyed ships carrying refugees. They broadcast recordings of human prisoners being tortured and killed. Their message was clear. They would never surrender. They would never stop. They would keep killing until humanity was too afraid to continue. They did not understand humans at all. Director Suman called an emergency meeting of the United Defense Council. The room was full of tired faces. They had been at war for 2 years. They had won battle after battle. And they were still not safe. "We have a decision to make," Suman said. "The Verath military is weakened, but not defeated. They can continue this war for decades. Every year we fight, more of our people die. More colonies are attacked. More families are destroyed." She looked around the table. "We can keep fighting the way we have been. Hunt down every Verath ship. Occupy every Verath world. Spend a generation at war." She paused. "Or we can end it. Now. Completely." General Unji spoke up. "How?" Suman turned to Dr. Jihoon. The scientist looked older than his years. His hands shook slightly. He had not slept well since the war began. "I have built something," he said quietly. "A weapon that can destroy star systems. Not just planets, entire stars, everything around them." The room went silent. "I call it judgment," Jihoon continued. "One device can eliminate all life in a solar system. I have built enough to destroy every major Verath military installation in the galaxy." Admiral Dowan slammed his hand on the table. "This is insane. You are talking about genocide, the murder of billions." "I am talking about survival," Jihoon replied. His voice was steady despite his shaking hands. "The Verath will never stop. They will rebuild their fleet and come for us again. They will attack our children and our grandchildren, unless we make sure they cannot. There are civilians on those worlds," Dowan argued. "Innocent people who never chose this war." "There were civilians on Earth too," Unji said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. 50 million died in the first hour. My sister was one of them. She was a teacher. She had never hurt anyone in her life. She looked at Dowan with hard eyes. The Verath did not care about innocent people when they bombed our cities. They did not care about children when they tried to enslave our species. Why should we care about theirs? Dowan shook his head. Because that is what makes us different from them. No, Suman said. What makes us different is that we are alive. And I intend to keep it that way. The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for mercy. Others demanded total destruction. The room was divided. Finally, Suman called for a vote. The question was simple. Use judgment to destroy the Verath's ability to make war forever, or continue fighting and hope they eventually surrendered. The vote was tied. Everyone looked at Captain Yuna. She had been quiet through the entire meeting. She was the tiebreaker. Yuna thought about everything she had seen. The destruction of Earth's cities, Teho's sacrifice, the slaves who had suffered for thousands of years, the Verath attacks on human civilians even after their capital fell. She thought about what would happen if they showed mercy. The Verath would rebuild. They would come back. Humans would have to fight this war again in 50 years. Or 100. Her children would have to make the same choices she was making now. She thought about what would happen if they used the weapon. Billions would die. Entire civilizations would be erased. Humanity would become the most feared species in the galaxy. It was not a choice between good and evil. It was a choice between two different kinds of horror. Yuna cast her vote. We use judgment. The weapon was deployed. The first target was the Verath home system, where Keth had ruled for centuries. The star went dark. Every planet, every moon, every ship was erased from existence. Billions died in an instant. Then the military installations. Then the shipyards. Then the weapons factories. Each time judgment fired, humanity offered a choice. Surrender and live, or resist and die. Some Verath surrendered. Most did not. They could not believe that anyone would actually use such a weapon. They were wrong. Within a month, the Verath Dominion was gone. Not just defeated. Gone. Their fleet was destroyed. Their military was eliminated. Their ability to make war was erased forever. The Verath species survived. Civilians on surrendered worlds were spared, but they would never threaten anyone again. The galaxy looked at humanity with a new emotion. Not just respect. Fear. Humans had destroyed an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. They had killed billions, without hesitation. They had done what no other species had ever dared to do. And they had won. 10 years later, Admiral Yuna stood before the new Galactic Council. Representatives from hundreds of freed species filled the chamber. They had all come to hear humanity speak. We did not ask for this war, Yuna said. We did not want it. We were a young species, just beginning to explore the stars. We hoped to find friends in the galaxy. Instead, we found masters who wanted to make us slaves. She paused. The Verath gave us a choice. Submit or die. We chose neither. We fought back. We won. And then we had to make a harder choice. Show mercy to an enemy who would never show mercy to us, or end the threat forever. She looked at the assembled species. We chose to end it. I will not apologize for that decision. I will not pretend it was easy or good. Billions died because of what we did. That weight will stay with us forever. Her voice hardened. But let every civilization in this galaxy understand something. We will never seek to conquer you. We will never try to enslave you. We want peace. We want trade, and friendship, and cooperation. She leaned forward. But if you come for us, if you attack our worlds or threaten our people, or try to take our freedom, we will answer. And our answer will be the last thing you ever hear. The chamber was silent. Humanity protects its own, Yuna said. Remember that. She left the podium and walked out of the chamber. Her work was done. The message was delivered. The galaxy knew what humans were capable of. She returned to Earth. The planet was recovering. Cities were being rebuilt. Farms were growing again. Children were being born who had never known war. Yuna visited a memorial on the outskirts of what used to be Seoul. It was a simple wall of stone with names carved into it. Every human who had died in the war was listed there. Millions of names. She found Teho's name near the bottom. She touched the carved letters with her fingers. "We did it," she said softly. "We're free. The Verith will never threaten anyone again." She thought about the cost. The billions dead. The civilizations destroyed. The innocence. Humanity had lost. "I do not know if what we did was right," she admitted. "I do not know if there was a better way. But we survived. That has to count for something." She stood there for a long time, looking at the names of the dead. Then she looked up at the sky. The stars were shining. Somewhere out there, freed species were building new lives. The galaxy was at peace, and humanity was watching. They had proven what they could do. They had shown the universe what happened when someone tried to enslave them. Now they would show the universe something else: how to live in freedom, how to build instead of destroy, how to be better than the enemy they had defeated. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. The war was over. The future was beginning, and humanity was ready.